Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is Megumi and an NB listener today. It's hypothesized that Megumi is actually pansexual. So I thought it would be fitting if he were to be with a neutral listener. So here is 10 questions. Megumi X non-binary listener. Enjoy. Dating Megumi was just, well, blah. He never said much and you never really knew where you stood with him, but you just somehow knew that he loved you and that he cared about you. But lately those feelings had been a little more strained and you weren't sure if he still did or not. You weren't even sure how you two ended up together, but for some reason you thought it would be almost impossible to leave him. But you weren't really sure. It was neither here nor there. You two just existed in life, side by side, and neither of you had questioned it until this point. But today you are going to see exactly where you two were at. Was it still going to work? We were going to see. It had been raining non-stop for months now, and work had been very dry. It was one of these days that you were lying on your bed in the shared room of Jujutsu High that you decided to see if you could work out how he truly felt about you, so you devised a plan to corner him and quiz him. The night before, you had Googled 10 questions to ask him to see if you could get to know him a little better and suss out your relationship with him. And so now all you had to do was wait for him to come back to the room so you could ask him your questions. You lay there staring at the ceiling, your little bunny ears twitching with every sound that clicked outside the room until you heard his footsteps coming down the hall. Excitedly you sat up, your little tail wiggling for a second as you looked at the door. Just then his footsteps stopped outside the door and the doorknob twisted open and his face appeared. You smiled at him, your eyes closed as you did so. "Welcome back," you greeted him. He grunted in reply, stepping in and closing the door behind him before walking over to his bed and flopping down onto it. You watched him, slightly disheartened by his non-reply to your friendly greeting. "Hey, I have some questions for you," you asked him, giving him a cute smile. "Why?" he asked as he turned his head towards you but kept it lying on the bed. "So that I can get to know you more?" you asked in reply to his question. "You already know me," he said, giving you his usual bored gaze. Your ears drooped slightly, but you were determined to at least give it your best shot, and so perked up a little. "Please?" you asked. "Fine," he sighed, looking more bored than before. You cleared your throat and pulled the paper out from behind your back. "Where did that come from?" he asked, but you ignored his question. "Question 1, you said. What's your favourite memory of us together?" "Huh?" he asked, lifting his head up to give you an annoyed look. "What is this? Why are you asking stupid questions?" It's not stupid," you replied with dejection in your voice. "I actually do want to know." "Did you get these questions off some stupid dating quiz thing online?" he asked, sounding angry. Well, yeah, but I do want to know," you replied sadly. He saw the look on your face and scowled, but still answered. "I don't know. That time you chased a curse into the river and tried to stop before you fell in, and then slipped over and had mud all down under your ass. It looked like you pooped yourself," he said. Your whole body suddenly flushed with adrenaline, and you dropped the paper and covered your face with embarrassment. "Oh, why did that have to be your favourite?" you wailed into your hands. "That's so embarrassing." "You asked," he replied with a smirk. "Oh, you're the worst," you continued to wail before removing your hands to speak. "Well, my favourite memory is us, after we did that extended exorcism in the mountains, and afterwards we got pizza together and saw shooting stars," you said, nostalgia ringing in your voice as your eyes glazed with that wistful faraway look in them. "That was such a lovely night. You held my hand," you added. "Why does that matter?" he mumbled with embarrassment. "Anyway, I answered your question," he said, before lifting his head and turning it the other way so that he wasn't looking at you anymore. "Oh, but I have more," you said. "What's something you've always wanted to try but haven't yet?" "Laying here without being disturbed," he said to the wall. "No, come on, please," you asked sweetly. "Is there something?" "No," he replied bluntly. You sighed and looked down at the paper for the next question. "What's one thing you've learned about yourself since we started dating?" you asked. "Dunno," he said, again not looking at you. "Okay then, what does a healthy relationship look like to you?" you asked. "Being left alone and not asked so many questions," he replied bluntly, still not looking at you. You swallowed thickly and read the next question. "What's your love language?" you asked. "Silence," he replied bluntly. Your heart sank. "This isn't working," You thought, is this the beginning of the breakup? I feel like he's grown cold towards me. Your heart sank to the pit of your stomach and a lump formed in your throat as you fought to get the next question out. What are some of your biggest dreams for the future? You asked. Yin, he said as he lifted his head and turned it to give you an annoyed look. Stop. You looked at him sadly, but then glanced down to read the next question on the list. You were determined to get through them all. For you it was like the final countdown. You just needed to ask all the questions, and then you could walk out and never come back, if you knew what I mean. What's a fear that you've never shared with anyone before? You asked him softly, looking down to read the question, and then looking back up at him again. His scowl deepened, and tears sprung into the corners of your eyes. How do you feel about the current state of our relationship? You asked in a wobbly voice. He just remained glaring at you silently. What's something you appreciate about me, but don't often tell me? You asked in an even wobblier voice, the hurt and pain coming through in your question. Do you still love me? You ended with, dropping the paper off to the side before jumping off the bed and running for the door, but Megumi was quicker and quickly slipped between you and the door, slamming it shut the second you had grabbed the door handle to open it. You burst into tears and covered your face with your hands. It's over, isn't it? You cried into your palms. This is it. We're done. After years of being together, we're over. You cried. We're not over. What are you talking about? He said, grabbing you into a hug. You don't care about me. You despise my presence. You wish me gone, you said, rattling off all the reasons that you thought he was feeling towards you and things you felt meant the relationship was over. Not true. None of that's true, he said firmly, and you initially cried harder in his arms and then slowly calmed yourself and sniffed heavily as you pulled your hands down and looked at him. Why are we together? Why are we still in a relationship? I feel like you don't care about me. We just exist together and that's it, you said, looking up at him sadly. I thought that maybe I could get inside your heart a little more by asking questions. You never share anything with me. I feel like I barely know you, you said. Megumi sighed and looked away with another scowl on his face. That's just me. It doesn't mean I don't like you, he said. But how am I supposed to know you like me? You asked despondently. What's a fear I've never shared with anyone before? He asked. That was the question, right? You blinked at him and then remembered that yes, that was one of the questions that you had asked him that he hadn't answered. Yeah, that's the question, you replied with surprise. Losing you. That's my answer. My honest answer. He said. Really? You asked, looking from his one eye into his other eye. Honest. He said. I can't see myself without you. The way you do a little hop when you're excited. The way your tail fluffs even more when you're cold. The way you don't care what you wear and that you wear the guy's school shirt and the girl's school skirt. The way your emotions show so plainly with the direction and angle of your ears. I see it all, and I need that in my life. This surprised you. You hadn't noticed that he had watched you so closely. How do you feel about the current state of our relationship? That was the next question, right? He then asked you. Oh, wow, you have a good memory, you replied with more surprise. I feel confident and comfortable in our relationship. We work well together. We understand each other and we know what makes the other tick. He said, but it's become apparent to me today that you don't feel valued and appreciated like you should, and I'm sorry about that. Your eyes welled with tears again, but this time it was tears of gratitude. I never want a day to come when you're not by my side, he said, reaching one hand up your back and placing it on the back of your head to stroke one soft ear, and you leaned into that feeling. You always loved when he played with your ears, but it was never as often as what you would have liked. But why do you want me to be with you if you never really talk to me? You asked sadly. There are times when I want to be close to you and have a connection, but you close me off. Yeah, that's me. He sighed. I'm not an open person, and I'm sorry that I do that. It's unintentional, though. I'll try and be more mindful next time. You nodded. The next question was, what's something you appreciate about me, but don't often tell me? Yeah? He asked. Again, you were surprised he remembered the question accurately, and you nodded. Initially, I was going to say I appreciated that you understood me and didn't require much of me. You seemed happy for us to just exist together, but I didn't realise this wasn't how you wanted us to be. When we initially started dating, I loved that we could just be in the same room together, not talking, but just felt comfortable. Humans do tend to annoy me, but you, he said as he reached for your other ear to stroke it, you're not like the others. He then ran his hand down your back and gently toyed with your little fluffy tail. I told you before that I prefer to be around animals more. I don't particularly have a preference in my romantic partner, but as long as whoever it is compassionate, that's all that matters to me. And you're compassionate. I've watched you over and over again. Your whole being is the embodiment of compassion. He smirked a little as he remembered all the memories of you showing compassion to human and animal, and more tears sprung to your eyes. So you do care. You do see me, you said in a wobbly voice. Of course I do, he replied, and the answer to your final question is yes. His lips met yours in a passionate kiss, back still pressed to the door in the silence of your room that felt warmer than it ever had before. Aw, so sweet. Stay tuned for next week. More Jujutsu Kaisen coming. It'll be Geto Suguru next week. I'll see you then.